welcome to Let's Be Love. This is your girl V, and today my special guest is Tremaine. Tremaine, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
When I say the word love, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
When I think of love, I think of an enhancement to one's best self. So I would say in a relationship, it would be a partnership in which each person helps the other person grow.
I like that. Now, when did you start discovering your own sexuality?
I knew without a doubt when I began middle school. I had a transition from a predominantly Polish and Latino school to a predominantly African American school. And when I was 12, I discovered my love for the Black woman.
Okay. Now, when did you come out to your family and friends?
So that was later in life. I felt like I needed to be very sure before I took such a big step. I was 24, 25 when I came out to my family and friends.
And how did they respond?
It was mixed. So my mother, we didn't talk for about 6 months after I came out to her. And I moved in with my grandmother because I was living with my mom. And my mom also didn't really talk to my grandmother or any of my family who kind of were in contact with me at that time. The rest of my family and friends were very accepting, and they just wanted to let me know that, they still love me and they knew I was still the same Tremaine. But it took my mom a little bit of time.
Did she eventually come around?
She has.
Now, tell us about your first girlfriend.
So my first girlfriend was in high school. I was like 14. Yeah, I was like 14, 15. And she was my quote unquote best friend. Somehow there was some play wrestling that happened, and I was like, oh wow, I've never felt this before. And that was kind of like the start of our relationship. We were together for about 2 years, and we spent about like every day on the phone talking till the wee hours of the night.
So then after high school, you went off to college. What was your college journey like?
I was trying to fit into the mold of what is like normal or standard. I dated guys. I thought might have been a phase, or like it was a thing that I did in high school. It wasn't something that I guess I was ready to claim.
And having all of those emotions in your way at college, how did you handle that? What was life like for you at that time?
It definitely weighed heavily on me. I felt like I was doing a lot of people pleasing and kind of just trying to live this life that friends and family had thrust upon me, but not living my full truth. It was a heavy burden to bear, and it led me into a pretty dark depression and dealing with some really tough anxiety during those years. So bad so that I had to leave college to kind of tend to my mental health too.
And during that time, did you seek help?
I did. You reach out to family and friends and you hear, oh, just pray about it. Or you hear, oh, you will get through it. You just need to focus.
I don't think we address mental health enough. You can get through this, you can pray your way through this, and that should be good enough. And sometimes that alone is not enough.
I prayed to God, and he, was like, I sent mental health specialists for you. Like, I almost felt ashamed that I was struggling because according to like society and the world, I had a picture perfect life. Like, I grew up in a 2-parent household. Both my parents were college educated. I grew up in, like a upper middle class family. I never wanted for anything. I have one sibling, and there was love, and according to society, I didn't have a rough upbringing, so I shouldn't have any emotional turmoil. Basically, actually, I reached out to friends and family, told them about like how I was struggling, and it never quite seemed like anyone really believed me or took me seriously. It's kind of like reaching out and nobody grabbing your hand to help you. Lots of times I've seen like when people die by suicide, there's usually like a social media outcry, like, please reach out, I'm here for you. But a lot of times they do reach out. People always reach out, but you have to know what to look for. You have to pay attention to how they're reaching out. I was telling like family and friends that I couldn't sleep. I was like the smallest I've ever been as far as like weight. I was 25 and I was smaller than I was in high school. And like, I just felt like even like my spirit was different. Like I didn't smile and things didn't bring me joy like they did at one time. And so if I could really give anybody like advice about like helping people through mental health, it would really be asking them about their emotions and how their emotions are affecting them at any given time. I feel like that is it's a deeper acknowledgement of how people are doing and understanding things from their perspective, rather than just saying, oh, I'm here, please reach out. Like, you can even be at the point where you're like, I'm depressed, and people won't really take you seriously. They won't understand the heaviness of those words.
And yeah, and sometimes they don't realize until it's too late. Because you had signs and you were asking for help, and I've even experienced individuals who are cutters. They've reached out for help verbally, and then when it becomes too much, they start to self-harm. People don't realize it until there's physical evidence that this person is in distress and they're really hurting.
Right. It's because once they've reached that point, they have given signs. Like they've set off alarms in their mind to alert people of what they're going through. When I was in like just the deepest parts of my depression, I remember thinking, if like this kind of like sadness and emptiness and nervousness is just the way that we're supposed to exist, that this is what adulthood is, I knew it wasn't sustainable. That was not something I could go through for years. I would not have been able to cope. Like it's way too heavy a burden to carry by yourself.
Now, you did seek therapy and go through a journey toward healing. Tell us about that healing process.
Okay, yeah, sure, for sure. I I reached out to family and friends and didn't quite get the support I was looking for. So, I went to the doctor, I sought out a therapist, I visited with a psychiatrist, I was put on meds. My therapist was a straight white guy, and that was like a slap in the face, because I felt like they set me up with a therapist that was so incredibly unlike me. I knew that there would be no possible way for him to help me figure out who I was. Mm-hmm. That's like a very important part of a wellness and healing journey, is being able to relate to the people who are helping you. A straight white male is not really going to understand life from the perspective of a Black lesbian. So I went for a little while, probably like 2 months, and it wasn't I saw no benefit of it. It wasn't helping at all.
Because he can probably empathize, but he can't truly relate to what you're going through and feeling.
2 years later, I was ready to step back into that journey. Like, I was ready to take on that challenge again to healing myself. And in doing so, I was able to find a Black female therapist, and she's awesome. And it was life-changing. I think that was the first time in like nearly a decade that I felt heard and seen. And that's so important. Like, because if people aren't like heard or seen, they wonder if their existence is necessary. So yeah, that was a truly life-changing experience, and it catapulted me like further along in my healing journey.
So now that you have been on this journey of understanding yourself better and healing, and you've been doing so for at least 10 years now, how do you know that you're ready for a relationship? Because a lot of people want to be in a relationship, but they have not wrestled with some unresolved issues, and they just bring all of that baggage to the next person and kind of dump it on their laps and like, here, fix me, understand me, when they haven't done the work themselves. So you've put in the work. At least 10 years you've been working on yourself. So how do you know that you're ready for a relationship now?
I think that's a really important question. I think the ultimate indicator that someone is ready for a relationship is having done that self-work, understanding what they need for self-care, and understanding what ways they show that they love themselves. And I think the biggest indicator that one is ready for a relationship is knowing that you're enough by yourself. Knowing you're enough by yourself, loving yourself with or without the love of someone else. I think that's the most important indicator, because a relationship shouldn't complete you. You should be complete before you seek a relationship. And a relationship should only enhance your best self. And so I think once people are able to know and love themselves and be happy with the person that they are, that they present to the world, then they're ready to take on the challenge of a relationship. Your happiness shouldn't be contingent on a relationship.
Right. Definitely. That is definitely key. Well, Tremaine, I thank you for sharing your story. Mental health is huge. It's something that we do not discuss enough. So I just thank you for being transparent. I thank you for sharing your story. You definitely have put in the work and the healing and understanding yourself. So I wish you nothing but continued success and happiness.
Thank you so much for having me, Dee. I just thank you for having me and giving me a platform to just advocate for mental health awareness.
Definitely. It's so important even to people who are like in their 20s or teenagers who still have not they don't have an understanding of who they are. So you're still trying to figure out, who am I as an individual? And then you go to college, you have all these issues with society, and you're away from home. And there's so many factors that come into play at that like transitional point in your life. And so it's hard, and people need to talk about it. We need to support each other. So I just thank you for being transparent, because you are not alone. So many other people have gone through this exact same journey, and a lot of people suffer in silence. So we need to talk about it.
Oh, most definitely.
I'm going to provide some links below for support with mental health awareness. And as always, I want to remind you to let's be love. Let's be the love that you want to see.
Thanks.